Okay, this is an article from rocketwave.com. I said that I was going to find all kinds of stuff on the Mets minor league system. And this is the Brooklyn Cyclones report. Now, if you like stuff on the Mets and you want to know everything you can find about the Met prospects, this is the channel you want to subscribe to. So hit that subscribe button right now and find out exactly what's going on with all these different players that are in the Mets farm system, in particular the Brooklyn Cyclones. After a late season push, the Brooklyn Cyclones fell just short of the playoffs in 2023, finishing with the same exact record as the Jersey Shore Blue Claws, but losing on the tiebreaker. Still, it's quite the eventful season out at Mamones. It used to be Keystone Park. At one point or another, the Cyclones had 7 of the Mets' current top 13 prospects on MLB pipeline pass through Coney Island. Let's take a look at some of the biggest names to play for Brooklyn this season, along with some more under-the-radar guys who had breakout campaigns. First up, Jed Williams. He's the big player we've all been talking about the last couple of days. The current number 3 prospect in the organization and number 14 overall pick in the 2022 MLB draft. Williams has started to skyrocket up prospect boards thanks to an outstanding 23 season. Starting the year of Low A St. Lucie, he earned a promotion to High A Brooklyn at the beginning of August, and he even finished the year with a handful of games at Double A Binghamton. And he had actually quite an interesting time in the postseason. For the season, Williams hit .263, had .425 on base, .451 slugging percentage. Good for .876 OPS across 3 levels. He hit 13 home runs, 22 doubles, and 8 triples, stole 45 bases, while only being caught 7 times, and walked 102 times. In 36 games with the Cyclones, his OPS was .1018. He played just 6 regular season games for the Rumble Ponies after his promotion to Double A, but he did hit a 3-run home run in the first game of their minor league playoff series. He was also named the organization's minor league player of the year by the Mets on last week. Williams said his goal is to be a September call-up in 2024. Quote, "Finish out this season strong," Williams said. "Start in Double A next year, and then hopefully it's a pretty big goal. Will hopefully be a September call-up next year." From Kevin Parada, he's the next guy. The current number 5 prospect in the organization and the number 11 overall pick in 2022, Parada spent the majority of his 23 season in Brooklyn before being promoted to Binghamton in the final few days of August. Parada hit .265 with a .340 on base, .447 slugging in 87 games with Brooklyn, hitting 11 home runs, 21 doubles, 4 triples, while also striking out 96 times in 382 plate appearances. It's been a solid season for Parada, but he did take a bit of a tumble down prospect list. Entering the year in the top 40 in baseball on MLB Pipeline, Parada now sits at number 89 as the season comes to a close. Sam Dykstra, who's in charge of creating the Mets' top 30 prospect list for MLB Pipeline, gave a reason as to why back in August. Quote, "For somebody who came in with a bad first profile, he hasn't quite knocked down the door in the way you would have hoped," Dykstra said. "He's still been above average in High A. There's a lot to like there. I still like the power for sure. You can see him run into some balls. I think it's going to be 20 homers at the top level at least by the time he gets there. But the defense still isn't quite there. I know the Mets are pleased with how some of the things have come along, but I think he's still going to be a below-average defensive catcher. And if that's the case, then he needs to hit significantly better than he has so far." That's interesting. Dykstra said he would like to see the Mets try him somewhere else, particularly left field, but maybe even second base. No, he doesn't think he would have quite enough athleticism for second. However, he said you want someone with his profile to stick at catcher for as long as possible, as a potential position switch likely would happen until at least AAA. Alex Ramirez, I think we haven't talked much about him. At one point, Alex Ramirez was a top 5 prospect in the Mets system and a top 100 prospect in baseball. In May, he was even listed ahead of Jet Williams and Ronnie Mauricio. Even Drew Gilbert, who's now number 2 prospect in the Mets system, was behind him. Now, at the end of the 23 season, Ramirez is down to number 11 on MLB Pipeline's list. Some of that has to do with what the Mets did at the trade deadline and draft, adding Gilbert, Luis Angel Acuna from the Rangers, Ryan Clifford from the Astros, drafted player Colin Houck, and player from the Marlins, Marco Vargas, all of whom are now listed ahead of Ramirez. However, he has been jumped by Williams, Mauricio, Mike Vassell, and Blade Tidwell. It's just a consistency thing, Dykstra said. You know that there's wide strength in there. You know that there's some speed in there. He can track balls down center field. Doesn't do it as often as he probably should. It's playing more like average power than the above average power that everybody was kind of hoping. I know age 20 season is young. He has time, but it's kind of flatlining. Whereas you would hope he would be picking up momentum and doing some different things and adding more power, showing a better bat. So it's kind of stagnating at a time when he shouldn't be stagnating. There have certainly been times this season where Ramirez has shown flashes of potential that made him a top 100 prospect, most notably on June 21st versus the Hudson Valley Renegades. Ramirez went 6 for 6 at the plate, stole 3 bases, and robbed a ball that was probably going to be a home run while playing left field. After that game, Cyclones manager Chris Newell commented on the type of potential that Ramirez has. I've said this time and time again, I'll continue to say it. When he wants to be, he's going to be the best player on the field every day. He's that talented. Even though he did have games like that one from time to time, his larger season results were underwhelming. Over 120 games for the Cyclones in 2023, he hit .221 with a .310 on-base percentage and .317 slugging percentage, which works out to just a .617 OPS. Over 100 points lower than what it was in 2022. He had 7 home runs, 21 doubles, and 1 triple, all also down from the previous season. When asked, with just 2 games left on his calendar, how would he assess Ramirez's season, here's what Newell said. Quote, hasn't been very good. I think he knows it. It is what it is. My hope is 2 things. I hope that he learns from it. Number 1, and he grows, because I've always said how you deal with failure or how you deal with a tough season will ultimately dictate how you do the following year. Hopefully he has the mental ability and the work ethic to get past this year. But in the meantime, I pulled him aside. He's been in the doghouse a little bit. We've had some man-to-man talks, and I told him, hey, it's probably too late in the season for you to climb up the batting average a lot, but it's not too late for you to come through for your teammates. Newell said he has a knack of seeing things before they happen. Said he told Ramirez that he had a feeling he would come up big for the team in their final 2 games. When the game is late and close, Newell said he told Ramirez he would come through in the clutch and the best player on the field. Ultimately, Ramirez went 0 for 6 over the final 2 games of the season with 2 walks, a run scored, and 2 strikeouts. It's been tough for him. He knows it. Newell said, I'm certainly empathetic for him because I never want to see guys struggle, but this is a hard game. If you don't know, it's a hard game. So I hope this humbles him. Ramirez spent the entire 23 season with the Brooklyn and High A, followed a 2022 season when he spent 54 games there as well. During that time, he became Brooklyn's all-time hits leader, reaching the mark in the final days of the season. He also blew past the Cyclones' all-time games and at-bats records, which were both set by Joe Holden from 2005 to 2006, almost 20 years ago. When asked if the plan was going into the year for Ramirez after spending about half of last season High A was for him to not spend all of 23 in High A again, Newell said that was accurate. He did say that he is not the decision maker when it comes to that, but he thinks everybody expected Ramirez to finish the year in Double A, possibly even Triple A. Next up, Stanley Consuegra. Consuegra, in a lot of ways, had a season very similar to Ramirez. He started the season in the bottom half of the Mets' top 30 prospects list on Pipeline, only to fall off come the mid-season update. He also spent about half of 22 in High A with the Cyclones, only to spend the entire season this year in High A as well. In 97 games, Consuegra hit .230 with a .296 on-base percentage and a .481 slug, good for a .777 OPS, with 23 home runs, 16 doubles, 4 triples. His 23 home runs set a single-season record for the Cyclones, breaking the number of 22 set by Francisco Alvarez in 21. That was also the career record, which Consuegra broke a few weeks earlier thanks to another 5 home runs with the Cyclones last season. The power is very real. By the eye test, Consuegra by far hits the ball harder than any other Cyclones player when he squares it up. Newell said he's never seen anybody hit the ball harder than him, and Cyclones hitting coach Richie Bennis said he thinks he's hit the ball as hard as 115 miles per hour this year. He's also a good defender, primarily playing right field, and has a cannon for an arm. However, the strikeouts are an issue. In 409 plate appearances in 2023, he struck out 113 times with just 31 walks. Quote, I've seen a lot of home runs. I've seen a lot of assists from the outfield. I've seen a lot of good plays from the outfield, Newell said. I've also seen between Omar De Los Santos, Consuegra Ramirez, and some other guys, they've got more strikeouts combined than Steve Cohen has money, and that ain't a good thing. Newell said he thinks it's imperative that they really work on it during the offseason, and if they can't fix it, they're going to have a tough road ahead. But in the meantime, they've been integral parts of what we accomplished last year and where we're at this year. If it wasn't for those guys, we may not be here. Next on this list is Ryan Clifford. Acquired by the Mets at the trade deadline in the deal that sent Justin Verlander back to Houston, Clifford played 32 games with the Cyclones over the final 6 weeks of the season. In that span, he wasn't great, hitting just 188, 307 with a 376 slugging percentage, though it's not uncommon for a minor league player to initially struggle after a midseason trade. His season numbers, which span across Houston's low A and high A affiliates as well as high A Brooklyn, finished at 262, 374, 480, 854 OPS with 24 homers and 20 doubles. Brooklyn is very much not a hitter-friendly park, especially for lefties. But Clifford still managed to smack a couple of home runs while aiming at the beach. He also struck out 140 times with 64 walks and 511 plate appearances. The number 6 prospect in the organization on Pipeline, he sits right between Kevin Parada and Colin Houck. Dykstra said that while Clifford is not in the MLB top 100 yet, he's someone who's knocking on the door. Parada is 89, so Clifford would be the next Mets prospect to enter the top 100 after any potential prospect graduations. Clifford played both left field and first base with the Cyclones, and Dykstra said ideally he sticks in the outfield. If he ends up being a first baseman, he said he'll have to hit more than he is showing right now. He also played 2 games in right field, but saw his starts there significantly decrease after he was traded to the Mets. Jacob Reamer. We've not talked much about Jacob. Just 19 years old, Reamer was promoted from low A to high A at the same time as Jet Williams after similarly impressing. Both players said it was nice to move up together as they had gotten close in their time playing in St. Lucie. The number 13 prospect in the Mets system on Pipeline, Reamer hit 265, 399 on base with 375 slugging with 8 home runs and 13 doubles over 102 games in 2023. His approach is not quite as outworldly as Williams, but still a very impressive one for someone his age, walking over 17% of the time when he got to high A. Newell, when talking about why Reamer and Williams have been able to make the jump to high A while still just teenagers, said the approach is one of the big reasons why. Quote, I'm not going to mention names. I don't get caught up in that chase stuff and all that other stuff. But the one thing I know, there's a guy that hasn't yet gotten there yet because of the chase, and he's a pretty damn good player, Newell said. So, yeah, it matters. And it's the reason why Reamer and Williams were able to gain the trust of the hierarchy to move them up. If they weren't ready, they wouldn't be. Ryland Thomas. Thomas, after 23, is one of the more unheralded prospects on the system. He's still not in MLB Pipeline's top 30, but he had a season that has definitely opened some eyes. An 11th round pick in the 2022 draft, he made the jump from low A all the way to double A in his first season of professional baseball. In 91 games between the two levels, Thomas hit 328 with 407 on base, 425 slugging percentage, which works out to 832 OPS. He doesn't have a ton of pop, hitting just 3 home runs on the year, but he also has wildly impressive 40 walks to just 28 strikeouts. Thomas simply just does not swing and miss, and it earned the admiration of Newell while he was in Brooklyn. Newell went as far as to bring up Thomas unprompted while talking about Jet Williams and how the two managed to get on base so frequently. Anybody that tells you that striking out is okay, they're lying to you, or they don't know the game because it's not okay, Newell said. I guess it's part of the game because it's in the stat column. But give me a guy who puts the ball in play. We'll go back to Ryan Thomas. We'll go back to Jed Williams. These guys don't strike out, and they're difference makers. We were lucky to have two of them in the lineup at the same time, because in this day and age, most teams, they don't even have one of those guys. And you give me 9 of those guys, I might go undefeated. He also was just awarded the organization's outfield Gold Glove. And here's the first pitcher on this list, Blade Tidwell. A second-round pick by the Mets in 2022, Tidwell is the number 10 ranked prospect in the Mets system on Pipeline. He started the season in Brooklyn and ended up spending about 2/3 of his season there in High A before earning a promotion at the beginning of August. His start to the season was rough, a lot of which was due to the number of walks he was giving up. However, he really started turning it around over the final 2 months he spent with the Cyclones, particularly over his last 7 starts. He had a 1.47 ERA with 52 strikeouts and just 13 walks over 43 innings, an average of over 6 innings per start. His first taste of Double-A wasn't as successful, with a 4.72 ERA over 8 starts. However, much like Brooklyn, he got better as he went along. If you take out his first 3 starts with the Roma opponents, he had a 3.32 ERA over his next 5 games. Tidwell dealt with a shoulder injury coming out of college, so it is encouraging to see him throw 116 innings in 2023. Next up, Christian Scott. Maybe the breakout star on the pitching side of things for the Mets in 23. Scott has skyrocketed up prospect boards in 23. Now, the number 12 ranked prospect in the Mets system on Pipeline, Scott is firmly in the conversation with Tidwell and Vassell as the best pitching prospects in the organization. Quote, just somebody who's needed innings, Dykstra said. He was a reliever at Florida, but the Mets have always believed in him as a starter. I think now we're starting again to the point where he's added innings the last few years, worked around some injuries, and now he feels comfortable as a starter. After appearing in 6 games for the Cyclones in 2022, Scott appeared in 6 more in 23, before it was very clear he was ready for Double-A and earning a promotion. He was also named the organization's minor league pitcher of the year. Scott, to put it simply, has nothing short of fantastic. In 87 2/3 innings, he has a 2.57 ERA with a 0.86 whip and 107 strikeouts and just 12 walks. That's awesome. He has the best whip of anyone with at least 70 innings pitched in the minor leagues. And finally, Tyler Stewart. Like Scott, Stewart really emerged this season as one of the top pitching prospects in the organization. After starting the year not in the Mets' top 30, he's now the number 17th ranked prospect in the system on Pipeline. He spent longer in Brooklyn than Scott, making 14 starts for the Cyclones, and dazzling, putting up a 1.55 ERA and 104 whip with 84 strikeouts and 23 walks over 75 2/3 innings. He wasn't quite as dominant when he got to Double-A, but was still very good, posting 3.60 ERA over 7 starts. Over his full season sample, Stewart had a 2.2 ERA, 1.1 whip, 112 strikeouts, and 32 walks over 110 2/3 innings. His ERA was the best among all qualified minor league pitchers who played in at least low A. I'm really fascinated by Tyler Stewart, given how tall he is, 6'9". It's kind of insane how well he's able to throw his stuff. The fastball and slider are really good, Dykstra said. He uses his slider a lot, and I'm wondering how that's going to work at the upper levels. But it seems to be working really well for him so far. He's certainly put himself squarely in the middle of the radar, which is a pretty good spot to be for a guy who was a 6th-round pick last year. So if you like this kind of stuff, you want to learn everything you could possibly learn about the Met prospects, where they are in the minor leagues, where they stack up with other prospects in Major League Baseball. If you're a big Mets fan, you want to learn about all this stuff, hit that subscribe button before this video is over. I'm telling you, I'll have all kinds of stuff. You won't believe the stuff I have. Stuff I don't even know about yet. But all these different articles and scouting reports and assessments and everything else, not from me, but from other people that have seen these players. I will never give you my judgment on players that I haven't seen. So I will leave that up to you. But you have to hit that subscribe button if you like this content and you want to watch further videos that I'm going to create for you. So thank you, and I'll see you later.